Week 4 in the books, folks, but we are back with another edition of Inside Black and Gold. Looking at another loss, unfortunately, for the Saints, going down to 0-4 on the year, 31-19 in Buffalo. But is it crazy to say the game was closer than the score looks?
Yeah, no, it was definitely closer than the score looks. And I mean, it was a 12-point game. I mean, that's not a blowout. Like that's, but either way, no, I mean, we're gonna talk about a lot, and it was funny because like I knew Bobby and his like when that game ended, I was like, he's gonna say the words, "There's no such thing as a moral victory," like 9 different times, and he didn't disappoint me. Like I think if I had counted, it probably would have been in the 8 or 9 range. But I'm gonna be the first to say, like, I disagree, and we'll talk more about it. When if you don't know what this season is for the Saints by now, that's on you. And when you are in the type of season the Saints are in, there is such a thing as a moral victory, right? There's also such a thing as a moral defeat, which is what happened in Week 3 in Seattle. And it's not to say like you're going to have a better record or you're going to feel better about the state of the franchise by the end of the season, but it's at least going to keep you in the stage where when Kellen Moore goes out there and says we're building towards something, you'd be like, all right, fine, I buy that. Like that's the difference. That's the difference. Because if you went out there in Week 4 and had a repeat of what happened in Seattle, you'd be like, whatever, dude. Like you're just talking up there. Because that you can't do that. And they didn't do that. I'll give them credit for that. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna go through a lot. The first segment, I want to get into all of that. I want to talk about reactions, that sort of thing. Second segment, we'll do stock up for once because I'm feeling a little more optimistic enough to do stock up in the second segment instead of the third segment. Because at some point we got to talk about good stuff, right? And then final segment will be stock down. We'll try to do a mailbag if we can. The problem is Kellen Moore's going to talk a little earlier than usual today, so we're going to try to squeeze this in. So we try to keep things a little shorter than we have, but we'll do what we can. But yeah, how you feeling, Steve? What's your day been like?
Just looking over some of the, not just the numbers, trying to get some of the more conclusive video footage of some things that I wanted to see again. I don't know. I still have a problem with the referees overturning an initial touchdown.
Yeah, that was one that, like when they overturned the play in the Superdome and I was like, hey, I saw a look in the stadium that I feel like was pretty definitive and they didn't show it on TV. That was not the case this time. Like, I think that was a catch. I was standing 5 feet away from it. I was in the back of the end zone. You could probably see me on the replay. And like, obviously I don't have super slow-mo in real time, but like that looked like a catch to me. And I think you ruin the game with that. I think you ruin the game with these super slow-mo overturns where it's like, oh man, but that millisecond where it might have grazed the ground, like it takes away catches that should be catches that for 50 years of NFL football were catches and now are not. And I don't think that's the point of replay. But that's neither here nor there. You can make the argument. I don't know. I didn't like that overturn either.
No, it was like it was called. If it was called incomplete on the field, whatever was going to be called, I guess you really can't tell with the review. I don't know if it's the shadow or what, but it still looks like that ball does not bounce on the ground to me. But for them to overturn it just was like, whoa, you do one of those, I don't understand what a catch is anymore. But to me, you have it in place where it was called touchdown on the field. You went to the review. There's nothing on that would change your opinion definitive on what the right was, and then overturn it. I don't feel right.
Sometimes they lean on the words conclusive evidence really hard. Yeah. And it's like, well, we can all infer what happened through that guy's leg, but we can't see it. So we have to stick with it. And then in other cases, it's like they're more than willing to just be like, yeah, we're pretty sure it hit the ground. And
yeah, right.
Like, guys, I don't know. Either way, should have been a better throw. And we'll talk more about that. We'll talk more about Rattler's day. I do want to mention like the atmosphere in Buffalo was interesting, and it was a warm game. You could probably see on my face, like I'm burnt. Like I have a sunburn here.
Did you see any tables get dismantled?
I didn't, but there were a lot of FUs that like there was people waiting at the airport, like the private airport that we landed at.
Yeah,
there was people waiting, and I've never seen that. Although it was kind of in a neighborhood, so probably people are just walking their houses. But what was most interesting to me about that stadium, it's Highmark Stadium. They're closing it after this year. Next year, they're in a new stadium. These old stadiums have seats really close to the benches, right? Like Kansas City, Green Bay, Chicago. Like there's just not a lot of space between it's one of the things that when they build these newer stadiums, they change is they put a lot more space between the benches and the stadiums. First stadium I've ever been to where they blocked off the first 2 rows of seats behind the benches, which makes me wonder, like, stuff must have been going down with those fans for them to, because like that's an advantage for you. Like you want them to be hurt. Like there must have been some serious complaints happening for the team to be like, fine, we'll take these seats away. I just thought it was interesting because those fans are they're rowdy. Let's put it that way.
Did you get any expletives thrown your way?
There were a couple times like people like screaming very close to my face. And I was like, they're not screaming at me, but if they started screaming at me, I would have taken offense to it. Like there was one point because they like to lean over and legit just like they just bang on the wall, which is normal, but like normally they're higher. Like at the Superdome they do it, but they're like 10 feet off the ground. In this case, like some woman like came an inch from just legit just whacking me in the face. She wasn't trying to do it, but I was just walking by and like I could see her arm go up and like she noticed it the last second and I was like kind of getting out of the way, but like I was very close to being punched in the face unintentionally by a Bills fan. But no, there was a lot of Saints fans there. I talked to a good number of them. I gave, that's one of the things I've been doing on the road is giving away cards on the road because it's hard at home because there's so many Saints fans that I could be doing that all day. But like I enjoy kind of asking people where they're from. And, there's people from there's a guy from Connecticut wearing a Jeremy Shockey jersey. I was like, is that a Jack Stoll jersey? It was 88. I was like, man, if that's a Jack Stoll jersey, I'm impressed.
That's a family member.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. So I always have a good time like going around, especially at stadiums like that, because it's such a low wall that I can just stand there and talk to them. So that was fun. But it's a nice atmosphere for football. I enjoy outdoor football when we get a chance to do it. It was hot though. It was like 75 degrees. I was sweating up a storm.
What did you get to see across the street? What they were building?
It's a nice stadium. And the biggest difference is it's like kind of enclosed, right? Like it's not just wide open like a high school stadium. And so with that, like you get some shade. Like in this case, it was just direct sunlight for like 3 straight hours. It's tough. I had to, I chugged water like at halftime. But thankfully it was a good game. And we'll talk more about that. But like, I don't know if I could have handled another game that was over in the first quarter.
Yeah,
it felt like it might have been. The way that game started, it felt like it could have gotten away real quick. Saints kind of hung in, but yeah.
Yeah, because when you take the opening drive and bing, bang, boom, you go march down the field, get points, you're like, ruh-roh.
Yeah, when the Saints answered, and that was important. But all right, let's hit a quick break. We're going to come back. I want to talk more about the atmosphere, what you thought of the game. We'll talk more about whether the concept of moral victories exists, that sort of thing. This is Inside Black and Gold. I'm Jeff Nowak. He is Steve Geller. This is our post-game stock up, stock down, studs and duds. We've called it like 19 different things throughout the course of our existence. You get the idea. We're going to do it. Again, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. You can follow me on Twitter at Jeff_Nowak. You can follow Steve at Steve Geller WWL. You can follow the show at Saints_pod. If you want to follow along with the stock up, stock down, I have a column over at WWL.com. Our website's back up now. If you tried this morning, you might not have found it, but you get the word out. We're back up. Steve doesn't get that reference because he's never seen The Wire, but I hope somebody else will. Anyway,
it is my queue of things I need to get on. Like I need to catch up with. So many folks have said you're missing out.
You've probably sent the gift to someone and not even realize it's what it is. Anyway, who dat? Go Saints. We'll be right back. And we are Gold, Jeff Nowak here alongside Steve Geller. I finally had the opportunity to go into my reserves and find my Trevor Penning cards, which case you're wondering, I have Trevor Penning cards up there. I thought that, the thing about that game, and I want you to react to this and tell me what you think, is, it's hard for me to be upset about that game, right? Like, we all knew what it was. We knew what the Bills are. We know they're going to be a Super Bowl favorite. They should be the favorite in the AFC. I don't know if maybe another team is up there with them, but like, you watch them play and you're like, okay, that looks like a Super Bowl team. And in large part because they have a Super Bowl capable quarterback, and not everyone has that. The Saints don't have that. But they were able to do things, and this, like, I went in harping on, like, you got to run the ball, man. You got to run the ball against the 32nd ranked rushing defense, because I don't think that's a mirage. I don't think that's just something that happened and you're going to explain it away in the stats. Like, I think that's actually a bad rush defense, or at least one that allows you to run the ball, and that's what they did. And so, like, I think there's too much good you did in that game to come away super upset, even though I understand you're 0-4 and that's just who you are. But I don't know. Like, last week I was upset. Like, I'm not even like the type of fan that goes into this and gets like actually angry about results of games. But even I was like, that's just not acceptable what happened in week 3. And so that's where I am. And I don't know. Like, I predicted 4-13. I've been here since the beginning. So maybe I'm just jaded. But where are you right now?
It was definitely a performance that was improved from week 3, which after what we saw against Seattle, going against the juggernaut offense of the Bills, I thought it was going to be a lot uglier. I would have given the 15.5, 16, whatever points you want to say, and take Buffalo in the game, and would have lost. The Saints actually, went toe-to-toe with them for a while. You saw some minor improvements, but then some other issues that are constant that make a at least acceptable outing against a tough team it concerns you going forward even more.
I felt like we competed in all 3 phases for 4 quarters, and opportunities are going to present yourself. That's what this league's about. You're going to have opportunities, and you got to take advantage of them. And I think there certainly were ones that we took advantage of, just not enough. And so, we had our opportunities late in that game to put ourselves in positive situations, and we just weren't able to come up with it. And so, credit to those guys. They made the plays when they had to, and they took advantage of them.
Oops, sorry, I'm messing this thing all up here. Hold on. Yeah, and that was my takeaway too. Like, you went out there as 16.5-point underdogs, and you pushed things to where they needed to be. You executed in situations that you needed to execute. And here's the thing: the Saints did a lot of the things that they needed to do to give themselves a chance to win the game. The problem is they didn't do enough of the things in the opportunities that were presented to them. And there were opportunities presented to them to actually put the pressure on the Bills that existed. You had 4 drives that started inside Bills territory, and you put 6 points on the board. That's not good enough.
Not exactly right.
So I'm curious, where are you at on Spencer Rattler? And we'll talk about I want to talk about Spencer here. We'll talk about some of the bad things that happened in the stock down, like Chris Olave, we're going to talk about later on, because there's just a lot to say. But like, Spencer is a really fascinating case study to me, because he plays so hard, and you can just see it. Like, there's no level of, I'm not putting everything I have on the line right now with him, because he very clearly is, right? The ceiling is so low. Like, the ceiling is so low, and there's like 3 or 4 plays throughout the course of every game that it's like, that's where a quarterback can make the difference between winning and losing. And it's not that he's throwing interceptions. It's not that he's turning the ball over. He's picking up key first downs with his legs, and he's where you. But like, there's just those plus moments that you need your quarterback to be a difference maker. Just doesn't get it done. And like, you look over at Josh Allen, and it's the exact opposite. And in a game where the Bills didn't play that well, he's the difference. And that's why you're talking about a Super Bowl contender versus a first overall pick contender. And I don't know, like as much as I like Spencer, I'm just starting to lose faith that you're going to see that leap from him. And a lot of it is based on like the accuracy. Like you need to be able to come up big in big moments. And I don't know. I'm not seeing that enough. And there's a certain point where it's like you're 0-4. How long do you ride it out when you know you have the guy waiting in the wings? Right.
Right. Now, you have seen, you mentioned the biggest positive for me has definitely been at least his mobility, the escapability, trying to look to create more with the legs, and even just willing to, like you said, do whatever it takes to try and get that first down. He's, sometimes you're like slide Spence and he's going face first kind of thing. But I mean, the accuracy you bring up, and obviously that play to Cook should have been a touchdown.
Yeah. And this is Spencer talking about that throw after the game. Let's talk. Let's see what he had to say.
Yeah, no, I made the check to that route. It was wide shell, and there was no pressure. Nodded him, and it was the look, and I ripped it early, and wish it was a little higher. And I thought he made a hell of a catch. I thought it was a catch, but they reviewed it and it wasn't. So that's tough. You want to hit that, but on to the next.
Yeah, sorry if those clips are coming in a little quiet. I should usually bump up the audio and I didn't. But yeah, it's while I agree, like I think that should have stood personally based on what I saw. It's also like the throw wasn't good enough. And what makes it frustrating is it was a very similar miss to the one we saw to Chris Olave against the 49ers. Right? Like it was kind of that quick in-breaking route. Like it was open and there was no defender really pressing it. And while I think he was trying to throw Cooks a safe ball, like I think the mistake you can make there is throwing it too far out in front, which leads him right into a safety that's ready to take his head off. So I think there was some level of, hey, I'm trying to keep it kind of back shoulder, but you can't leave it back shoulder and low. And that's what he said. Like he wanted it a little bit higher. I think that's the miss. The miss was the trajectory of the ball, not necessarily throwing it ahead of him versus behind him. But like he does have a habit of leaving balls behind players. Yes. You're throwing that early. It's not like he's spent years throwing to Brandon Cooks. You're talking about a couple months. The timing is not going to be perfect. But man, that's frustrating because that point of that game, like there's, I came up with 8 kind of missed opportunities, and that's again my stock down. But like that's one of them. Not taking advantage of the Sanker interception was one of them. The missed interception by Warner was one of them. And it's like if 2 or 3 of those 8 things go your way, you have a chance to win that game. Now, I think they still lose it even if they score that touchdown. I think Josh Allen still comes down, and you're going to have to do something else. But that's only because there was missed opportunities earlier in the game. And it's not all on the quarterback, and it can't be all on the quarterback. And I think Spencer has played about as well as you could have hoped for a 5th-round pick coming in with a lot of questions. But at a certain point, not being the reason you lose a game is not enough to hold off the young player with kind of that imaginary upside that everyone's going to get excited about, right? And I don't know when that is, when that kind of shoe drops, but playing like that and missing opportunities like that is not going to stop it from happening. And that's my biggest takeaway.
Do you feel like the clock is starting to speed up more? I know we were talking like probably after the bye week made sense, but would they right now, what does it take to be willing to pull that trigger? Is it a loss to the Giants and then you put them against the Patriots? And Tyler Shough.
Sorry, I got a text on this. It distracted me. I think there's a few different ways to look at it, and I think it's like what I don't want to do is give Tyler Shough his first start on the road. So that's a factor, right? Like I'd want him to make his first start at home. So I think that eliminates some weeks of like, we could go here, we could go here. Like I was never going to give Tyler Shough his first start in Buffalo. No. Unless
there's a week 1 starter.
Right. Like an injury could happen at any point and that changes it. So this is all like what it would be your desired first game. And week 12 would be the idea. Like if all things are considered and you're 2-10 and you just, it's like, that would be like hey, I got a 7-game runway to see what I have type situation. And here's the thing. If Spencer goes out and wins a bunch of games, then and week 12 is not it because he's earned the right to keep playing, but he's got to earn the right to keep playing. Not being the reason you lose is not going to be enough to do that. I think in week 5, you're going to have a very important situation for Spencer Rattler in what, dare I say, you could call a winnable game, right?
Yeah.
Like week 1, you're talking about a good Cardinals team that's probably a playoff team. Sure. Week 2, same situation against the 49ers. You should have won that game against Mac Jones, whatever. Like I put that more on the defense than the offense. Continue. Week 3, that's a good Seahawks team in a really difficult environment. Like I'm not going to hold that against the quarterback, especially when special teams melted down the way it did. Week 4, you're playing potentially the Super Bowl favorite right there. So it is what it is. Week 5, you're coming home. All of the first month of the season kind of mechanics should have been ironed out. Like you should be running the offense pretty high at a high level. Defense, same situation. You're going against a team with a rookie quarterback that doesn't have its number 1 receiver. Malik Neighbors out for the season, which awful. That sucks. The turf at MetLife is going to be a conversation that's had continually because guys just get hurt there all of the time. And so this is a game that you don't have the built-in excuse of like, they're clearly the better team. And so I think it's a game that if it's not something you look at like Seattle, where you have a special teams meltdown or defensive meltdown and the game is in your quarterback's hands and he doesn't get it done, then I think you do consider starting Tyler Shough in week 6. If he does get it done, great. Fantastic. You get that monkey off your back and let's see how we can build.
Yeah.
But I do think that week 6 is the first time I'm looking at the schedule and saying it could be then. I'm not saying it will be then. It's going to be depending on the context of what happens next week. But that's the first time this season that I'm seriously looking at it and being like, that might be the Tyler Shough game.
Poor Spence, man. They couldn't even get it done on his birthday.
Hey, it was Tyler's birthday too.
True. Just a really odd coincidence and wild.
Yeah, that they have the same birthday.
Yeah, right. And basically from around the same area.
What are the odds of that? Yeah, I mean, I guess 1 in 365, right? Assuming it's not a leap year. But yeah, I don't know. But there's more to, the game. Like you had some injuries. Cesar Ruiz was the biggest one. And it kind of leads me to my biggest pet peeve, which is I had someone ask me at the game a few weeks ago, like, what is one of your biggest pet peeves of like what people say? I didn't have a good answer at the time. It was one of the security guards was talking to me. And I've decided my answer is when I tweet out that someone's in the injury tent and immediately get like 30 responses of like, oh, what a bitch. like it's wild to me that people can watch an NFL game. And maybe my perception is skewed because I'm so close to it when I'm down on the field. But like, I don't know how you can watch an NFL game and not come away with like being amazed that these guys aren't going into the injury tent after every play. Like these guys, it's amazing they aren't in the injury tent 10 times a game. But I tweeted like Trevor Penny went into the injury tent and I think he was just getting taped up. And it was like, you would think he was out for the year. And I don't know. It bothers me.
Yeah, but when they come off the field, Jeff, the health meter starts to regenerate.
You'd think. But no, Cesar Ruiz.
That to me, just specifically with offensive linemen, that job is so difficult. And you just take that pounding every single snap. I can't. You look at the most offensive linemen, and they've got the most braces or gears or sleeves on them, throughout the team. Just one of those warrior positions that never gets enough credit, and will get all of the blame for some issues. But it was nice to see the starting 5 intact this one for a little bit.
For as long as it lasted, right?
Yeah, right.
And I do want I don't agree with Brian Kelly on a lot of things, but one of the things I agree on is like he makes all of his offensive linemen wear the knee braces because like you should all be wearing those at all times, man. But no, I mean like Cesar Ruiz got hurt, and it's just it's a perfect example of like it's not a being tough thing. It's just like he's doing his job. And actually, it's funny. Everyone blames Cesar for everything because they hate Cesar. That was Cesar's best game of the year, but you would think Torricelli Simpkins came in and played like an all-pro. And I have a quick clip from Torricelli that will play. And I think Torricelli played well, but like Cesar played well. But everyone hates Cesar. So he gets hurt and it's like everyone wants to throw him off a cliff. But like all he's doing is getting downfield and blocking for his quarterback, and his quarterback gets tackled into his legs, and suddenly he's got a serious ankle injury. And we'll see how serious. We're recording this before Kellen Moore talked. He did not have an update after the game. Hopefully we'll have a bit more. Sounds like he's going to miss some time. Okay. And you're going to get more Torricelli Simpkins, but that's the only major injury. And it is frustrating because you finally get your 5 offensive linemen out there and immediately you're down one again.
Can't happen. Right.
But that's just life in the NFL.
No, I saw the Chargers, they lost Alt now too. So you talk about those investments, high investments in offensive linemen in the draft. Yeah, the life in the NFL, like you said, is just so brutal on the body. And I think that anybody celebrating someone going to the 10 is just really disturbing and gross. Yeah,
that's kind of what I was getting to. Is like if you're out there being like gross about a guy getting hurt, like that says a lot more about you than the player. And again, you ran for 118 yards in the first half, didn't allowed one QB hurry. Like the offensive line was playing well. Trevor Penning is a guy. I point to the cars behind me. Like I am a little worried about his foot. Just in like whenever you come back, you play in the first a full game for the first time. Like if you've ever had a ligament injury, you know that it's not like you took a month off. Suddenly it's better. Like no, you're in a position where you can play, but there's always going to be a re-injury risk. And he was hobbling around a little bit. I don't know if his foot was taped up too much, but like a lot of times when you come back from like ligament injuries, they'll put something in your shoe or like a hard brace. So maybe that was giving him a little problem. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the injury report and maybe is limited or misses a practice, and then people are going to freak out. But those are tough injuries. Like like he was. I think he gutted through it a little bit, and a lot of guys are gutting through stuff throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, I think you're going to see Fuaga all year. Just it might say limited, but he's just getting that maintenance.
I actually thought he looked healthy in that game for the first time all season. And so hopefully that's a sign that he's kind of figured out his program around that knee. I think the week off did him a lot of good. But no, I mean, I think just in general, like my final takeaway from the game is this was going to be one way or the other, a pretty massive statement on how does Kellen Moore handle a really, really bad game. Like, how does his coaching staff, how does his culture, his regime, the group of players that he's put in position to lead that room, how does that leadership group respond to what was one of the ugliest games we've seen? Not the ugliest game. Like, again, I think the Packers game was worse last year, but like one of the uglier performances we've seen. And I think that's this game. And one of the reasons I say, okay, moral victories, whatever. I think that's what it is more so than anything else, is the way they went and played gave me confidence in the coaching and the coaching staff's ability to create a plan, to get guys to execute that plan, to fix issues that occur. Because like it's easy to look at this season and miss the forest for the trees and be like, well, they're 0-4. It's like, yeah, but this is a guy that you expect to be the coach for the next decade. These are players in like your cornerstone left tackles, right? Or your cornerstone tackles, young players, young defensive players coming out and playing well off of a rough game. And if you have a game like that and it just breeds more and more bad things, which seemed to be the case under Dennis Allen, like the second things started going poorly, the snowball starts rolling and it just never gets pulled back. Like that's the sign of bad coaching. So much of being a good coach in the NFL is identifying, man, that snowball is rolling down the hill. Let's get out in front of it, and actually being able to stop it. game looked like a coach that could do that. Take that for what it is.
And I mean, the competition level we knew was raised in this matchup at Buffalo. You heard all the stats of their record at home, the lack of turnovers, which, you know, that was a huge, you know, positive in this game. Is like, wow, you look for any little nugget you can take from, you know, losses. And I'm sorry, yeah, I was like, okay, they caused Josh Allen to throw his first pick of the season. That's a nice little feather in the cap for you. And I know, you talk about, I guess that is a moral victory then, because I was totally not buying into the moral victory category there. But now that I think about it, if I'm looking at, you know, getting that first pick, and for your team as well, Sanker pulling in the interception, huge positive, just an overall for a team that they broke the seal on INTs as well.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I think the reason it's like, yeah, there's no such thing as moral victories in the sense that you're 0-4. Like, it's either you're 1-0 or 0-1 in that week. And there's no such thing as 0-1 with an asterisk saying, yeah, but it wasn't that bad, except it is. That's exactly what it is. And like, you're coming out of that feeling a lot better than it would have been if you had gotten completely trucked. Right.
Right. What you thought was going to happen. It looked like it was going to happen.
And it's depressing at the same time that it's relieving, in the sense that that's what we're settling for.
Yes. Yes.
So I get that. And I get what Bobby's saying. Like, you can't just settle for not being embarrassed. Like, that can't be the standard. But you got to start somewhere. And that's where we're going to start right now.
Well, we're talking about Rattler, and that's going to be the biggest thing then you take out of that game. Obviously, we don't have a guy like Josh Allen that's that franchise leader that can, you need this right now, I got this.
Right. And they had it for so long. And it's like, we don't even need Josh Allen to show us that, because we had it with Drew Brees for so long.
Yeah.
But like, you don't have to be perfect in every phase of the game to win a game when you have a quarterback like that. And the Saints are in a situation where they do have to be perfect in every phase of the game to win with the quarterback situation they have. And
the no chemistry, and what do you say, off throws or the drops, whatever it is between him and Olave is just unsettling now 4 games in.
I think it's the accuracy thing, and that's my biggest criticism of Spencer. And it's not even a completion percentage thing. It's when you're missing, how are you missing? And it's not defenders making plays a lot of the time. It's miss. There are drops too, but when you don't know where the ball's going to be, I think you're fighting it a lot, you know. And I don't know. That's something that I think has just kind of crept in a little bit. But let's wrap that up and come back with the stock up segment again. I'm Jeff Nowak. He is Steve Geller. We are reacting to the Saints loss to the Bills, 32-19 up in Buffalo, Orchard Park, basically closing down that stadium. It was the first, one of the only 1 o'clock. The crowd was really excited because they got to go to a 1 o'clock game, which is 1 o'clock on the East Coast, Eastern time zone at least. And it was like, man, we got so many of these. Maybe that's why the Saints played better, because they're used to playing it at that time. But either way, let's come back again, because I'm feeling a little chipper today relative to how we've been. We're going to get to the stock up first and then go into some of the negative stuff to close out the show. But who dat? Go Saints. Subscribe. That's important. Make sure to do that. Leave a rating, leave a review. Otherwise, we will be right back. And we are back on Inside Black and Gold. The good thing about watching these live is like these ad breaks are only like 6 seconds long. So, I mean, you guys are lucking out here. That's not true on TV though. When you're watching, I was watching the Cowboys Packers game last night.
Ridiculous.
That was all. It's one of those situations that like you're committed to it. And I try to tell Claire this, like, once I am committed to a game, I can't just stop watching. Like, it's a cardinal sin of sports fanhood to walk away from a game that just went into overtime. I don't care if I have a reservation. Like, I don't care if I have plans.
I will see this game through.
And then when it ends in a tie, you're like, what the hell just happened to me?
Right. You got screwed.
Anyway, but I don't even have a point to make on this game other than would the Saints settle for a tie right now? I think that might be the only thing worse than losing to the Giants would be tying the Giants this week.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. Yeah. Don't want that.
Yeah. And that's the thing, when they changed the overtime rules a couple years ago, or I guess this is the first year they've changed it to where if you score a touchdown, you could still get a chance at the ball. That was what they were inviting, was more games like this, because the smart thing to do for the Packers was to play that game for a tie, and they did that. But we're not here to talk about the Packers tie. We're here to talk about the Saints, and this is the stock up segment. So let's get into it. First, I'll let you start. Go ahead. Give me your first stock up player for the Saints after that game.
I'll lead it off with going with the run game and Kendra Miller. Averaging 5.9 a carry. Love to see that. It was one of those games that it wasn't necessarily because the O-line was intact that helped, but you saw him breaking tackles too. Just thought overall, especially on display with the touchdown for him, you just saw that hard running, and it was great to see it pay off as well. Someone you want to root for. You're hoping to see why the Saints invested in him, and it just one of those outings where you're like, I get it now,
Yeah, and that was my biggest one too. And I can't even single anybody out. I just think the run game in general was very impressive. Right. And a lot of it was after contact running. I'd like to see the run blocking be a little better. But no, I mean, again, I went into that game harping on it. I went into that game saying, man, you look at all these numbers. You look at the 156 yards per game allowed on the ground is the worst in the NFL. You look at 1.99 yards allowed before contact, which is 31st in the NFL. 5.6 yards per carry, which is 32nd in the NFL. 18 10-plus yard runs allowed through the first 3 weeks, which is the most in the NFL by a pretty wide margin. And it's like, those aren't numbers that are skewed by one bad game against a good team like the Ravens. Those are numbers for a team that just doesn't stop the run well. And they didn't have Ed Oliver. So,
or Milano.
You had to run the ball. The game plan had to be, we have to run the ball. And so it's hard to look at it and be like, well, they figured it out. This is a running team now. But you have to be able to run the ball in matchups where running the ball is an advantage for you. And what I appreciate the most about it is not just that they did it, it's that they did it while, as you mentioned, not just relying on Alvin Kamara. Because what I think is very true for Alvin is he has had his best when you are in a legitimate tandem. You think back to the Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram, or even Latavius Murray was a legitimate kind of duo that you look at. And Latavius, I don't think fit quite as well as Mark did back when they were back in 2017 when they were really popping off. But 15 for 75, 4.7 yards per carry. That's Alvin. 11 for 65 and a touchdown. That's 5.9 yards per carry. That's Kendre. And one thing that we can talk a lot about Spencer Rattler, you do have to give him credit for what he's doing on the ground.
That was
because a lot of these runs,
my biggest up from him for sure.
6 carries for 49 yards. That's 8.2 yards per carry. But they came in critical moments.
Right.
I'd love to see him attack more. I'd love to see him get more aggressive. But on third down, I need a first down. And that's when he comes alive with his legs, as Kellen Moore puts it. I don't know what that even means. His legs really came alive. He keeps saying that. But those are the moments that, why do you like him in that role? Because he can keep drives alive in that way. The problem is finishing those drives off. And I think at the end of the day, the red zone is where you kind of fall out of love with him as a player. But no, I mean,
the lack of finish, that's the biggest problem we saw in training camp. We go back with Spencer.
But if the Saints can run the ball like that,
oh, right,
they're going to win games. They're going to win games. Not this game, because this game was almost virtually unwinnable, especially once you missed opportunities like that. The Philly special that did not go well. We haven't talked about that yet.
I'm trying to erase it.
I blame Cole Bishop because he made a hell of a play on that. He really did.
Reading recognition for sure.
I mean, he was the only guy on the field that had any idea what was going on. Like, and we'll talk about it in the Chris Olave thing, but like the reason Chris threw the ball the way he did was because he was like, "There's not going to be a soul within distance to make a play on this," and Cole Bishop just came out of nowhere. Really, what do you want?
I'm still upset Kamara wasn't the one throwing the football.
Yeah, it's tough to run a play like that to a running back because you have to swing it around and then come back from out wide. And I guess you could put Alvin Kamara over there, but the second you put Alvin over there, all the attention's going anyway. And see, you don't want to key the defense that something weird's going to happen. You want it to look like a normal play. And anyway, that's not what I was going to talk about, but the run game. So that's where you're at. And Alvin was very talkative after the game. Like, he was very pleased with how things went. He's very pleased with how Kendre played. And like you mentioned with Kendre, I don't know. I have to go look at this. Has he ever had a run of 4 consecutive games that he was featured in?
No.
I don't know. At least not healthily. At least not coming out of it intact without a concussion or without some other injury. So, no, I mean, that's a big positive for this team and this offense in general, because when you as an offense can assert your will in the run game, everything becomes easier at all levels, right? So, yeah.
And yeah, the Rattler decisions and his escapability was made me smile. And you look at a game like this and not much to be happy about, but I thought that was one that was what he showed was really nice to see.
Yeah, it makes you smile a little less when you look at the all-22 and you're like, there's a big play there, and he just didn't see it. And then that's happened a couple times, right? And you settle for a first down because it's there, when it's like, why are there no big plays? Because instead of taking a chance at a big play, you're pulling it down and running. But I do think the Saints coaching staff is very much preaching, take first downs. Don't bypass a first down for an aggressive throw that you don't trust in. But I think one of the issues is that you just don't trust in enough. Either way, you can't complain about the efficiency he's had on the ground, and he's nifty, right? I talked to Alvin about it, and he was like, if you go back and watch that run, he took a shot at the end, but he dropped a little like Euro on him, which you don't see running backs or quarterbacks do that very often.
He's not afraid of contact.
No, and he's elusive, right? Like, that was just I don't know. It was a nice little juke. He's played some basketball, I can tell. But no. So moving forward, the other player, like the player that I really came out high on, was Jonas Sanker.
Yeah, I gave him player of the game post game.
Yeah, and do we have a train horn here? Yeah. The Jonas Sanker hype train is
all aboard, right?
All aboard the Jonas Sanker hype train.
That was another smile guy that you had from this game.
In my stock up, I just said young DBs because I also like what Quincy Riley did in his opportunities. I think he's going to be the starter. And I asked Kellen Moore after the game, like, was there more to this than just the regular rotation? He said no, and I call him BS on that because he played 24 snaps. I think next week Quincy Riley is going to be out there first. Across from Kool-Aid, and you're going to move off of the Ike Adams starter experiment, but we'll have to wait and see. But no, that interception was so impressive, and just, you need a guy with range like that in playing deep center field. And, the playoffs are starting. You got Red Sox, Yankees coming up this week, and, Ceddanne Rafaela is the star center fielder for the Red Sox, and what makes him so special in the outfield is not like, oh, he does these spectacular things. It's that he makes incredible catches look routine because his first step is so fast. He recognizes where the ball is going so early, and there's no wasted movement. So it's like, you don't need to make a diving catch because you're already there, right? And in the NFL, it's very similar. Like, you see where the action is going and you break on it, and suddenly something that looks wide open is an interception. Like, Josh Allen didn't think for a second that ball was getting intercepted. And it did, because Jonas was able to break on it from center field and get to the edge of the field. And the Saints have not had a safety with that type of range since Marcus Williams.
You got to give credit to Rumpf too, though.
Well, that was a different play.
Oh, that wasn't the same play? I thought
no, Rumpf Rumpf hit his arm on the throw that Pete Werner should have intercepted.
Ah, okay. Gotcha. I know we'll be talking about that in a preview of Stock Down.
Well, we could talk about Rumpf in the Stock Up if we want, but the result of the play in terms of the missed opportunities was there. But no, there was nothing. Josh was not impacted on that throw. He just thought he had one-on-one on the outside with Keon Coleman, and he was like, I trust my guy more than you trust your guy. But Jonas Sanker was able to get over there and make a play on it so that you don't even have to wonder whether Keon would have beaten, I believe it was Ike Adam in that situation, because Jonas made a play. And so, there's stuff to learn. Jonas is still kind of developing at the NFL level. Like, one of the things that annoys me about how we talk about young players is like either they're great or they're bad. Like either every play is great or like that one mistake is suddenly, well, they can't do it. Like, that's just not, like, we're seeing that with Kool-Aid now. Like, you're seeing good play, bad play, but we only talk about bad plays because the good play, the ball doesn't go to him.
Yeah, the WWL text line was brutal post game on Kool-Aid.
Sugar Water McKinstry.
You heard that one, huh?
Yeah, I heard Bobby. Bobby's mean, man. Bobby can be mean. I had someone text me like, man, Bobby's really going off on Chris in the halftime. And I didn't even hear it because I go into the stadium to go to the bathroom and get a snack. And so I lose the halftime show in my ear. So I have no idea what he said. Right. But I had someone text me and be like, man, he's really going after Chris.
Not a fan, right?
Yeah. And I get it. But no, I think the Saints secondary of the foreseeable future, and you'll add pieces to this as we go, is going to be Kool-Aid McKinstry, Quincy Riley on the outside, and then Sanker and Justin Reed as kind of the veteran who pulls it all together. And I have
Alante, huh?
Well, and yeah, that's the thing. Like, and then you put Alante in the mix, but I don't know if he's going to be here after this year. So that's why I'm not putting him in that. Like, yeah, possibly if you extend him or you re-sign him. But as far as that's the group that's going to be here for 3 years, no question. That's it. And I think Alante, you probably do bring him back, and he's not playing at a level right now that's going to be like someone's going to come in and drop a bag on his head. So I do think he's probably in that mix, but I like that group. I do. And I think Justin Reed, while I have a few criticisms of like, I need Justin Reed to make more impact plays, I do think that he's a really important player to have in that room just as a teacher, and the Saints value those veteran players. And I think they're right to. And games like that.
He definitely is a guy that you feel like he talks, you want to listen. I got to imagine his teammates are the same way.
He's basically an assistant coach out there.
Yeah.
And I did think it was interesting how they handled this. And that's why I like Kellen when I asked him, he kind of just brushed me off. And I'm like, dude, just be honest with me. Because there was a point in that game where they took Kool-Aid out and put Quincy in for Kool-Aid. And it was Ike and Kool-Aid. And I was watching them on this. No, it was Ike and Quincy. I'm sorry. And I was watching on the sideline in between series, like Kool-Aid and Quincy were sitting there next to each other, and Grady Brown, who's the DB's coach, was kind of just like going at him. And I was like, well, okay, is Kool-Aid benched? Or I think they just like was bad start for him, and I think they just needed to pull him out and just kind of settle him down and like, all right, we're gonna do this. And then they put Quincy out there with him, and I thought that duo played well. I thought the windows shrunk. And it was also a situation in that second quarter where the Bills started a lot of drives deep in their own territory, and the Saints took advantage of that. But the Bills are well capable of 90-yard touchdown drives, right? It's not just that they were in bad situations. The Saints also took advantage of those situations. And I thought Quincy, he's going to get burned a few times, but he plays the ball well, and he just puts himself in good position to play the ball. And Jonas had 3 PBUs as well. So like, I thought they made plays on the ball as that game went on that they didn't make early. And then in the second half, it was more about like, you got to tackle the running backs.
You talk about with folks, the ire or their hatred going towards Cesar Ruiz. I feel like Ike Yudam's another one on social media that just gets blasted for good reason, though. I get it. I understand. I think does kind of seem puzzling why you weren't willing to go to the younger guy earlier.
Well, my problem with a lot of the discourse around guys like Ike Adam and Cesar Ruiz is it's a lot of intellectually dishonest arguments where it's like, I know why you want Ike Adam off the field, and it's because of the comp pick. But it's not like, well, you're going to put Quincy out there and he's going to be like head and shoulders better. It's because you want to play the young player. But like, I get annoyed when people just trash veteran players to try to make their point when it's like, you're not analyzing anything. You're just trying to make a disingenuous argument so that when it comes down to it, you can be like, oh, I was right. And it's like, yeah, but you were always here. You were never there and then got convinced. Like, you started here and for different reasons. Anyway, but that's a whole different thing. One more thing that I want to talk about is the procedure. The Saints did not have a single procedural penalty. The only penalty on offense was Spencer Rattler in an intentional grounding, which good on the coaching, good on the players.
Yeah.
I got to catch up with Torrey Simpkins after the game. So let's hear from him.
Feeling good.
You know, I don't know if it was as loud as Seattle, but it felt loud. I mean, just getting to that environment. Obviously, you're the one who has to trigger the snap. How do you think about that?
I felt like we didn't have no false starts today, and I feel like we did better, especially better than last week, where we had a lot of false starts. We harped on it this week, not trying to get as many false starts, limiting the penalties, making sure we started fast. So make sure we start fast.
And what goes into that? I mean, like, what is that? Just something you drill in practice? Is it a mentality? Like, what is that?
It's everybody being on the same page, being on key, on the snap point, listening for the calls, or just watching the flash, or watching Eric's head move. And I feel like we all made it we were determined to make sure we were detailed in that aspect of the game today.
Yeah, just the run game in general. I don't know what the final numbers were, but y'all established the run. How do you feel like that went, and is that something you build off of?
Yeah, I feel like that's something we can build off of. Like, we came in the game wanting to show our physicality, and I felt like that's what we were doing this game. We made sure we dominated the line of scrimmage, trying to move them off the ball, move those guys off the ball. And that's just a mental thing, something you got to have the mentality to do.
Gotcha. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sorry, not handling this stuff very well today. But yeah, and I just thought like the mentality of that offensive line, the confidence level of that offensive line, it should be a lot higher after this game than it probably was going into it. That's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah, like you said, I'm curious to see how Penning's body's doing after, getting some action, getting a little run in there. But, man, I know the Buffalo defense isn't anything that's spectacular, but overall I was impressed at how much the Saints run game was getting into their secondary. For once, we were, the cause of some ire there instead of the Saints. The Saints had their issues, though, as on defending the run, but the offense getting yardage there, you want to see more of that for sure.
Yeah, and we talk about like procedural penalties, and those are the ones you can correct and whatever. But the defense also deserves a lot of credit too. It's not easy to play an entire game and not get a single holding penalty or like offside, especially in that environment. Like, there's a lot of composure shown on both sides of the ball. Special teams, not always the case. That Nephi Sewell penalty at the end was brutal.
Yeah,
I don't blame him for going after the punt, but and there was a couple holds on kickoffs you can't have. But even then, it's 3. It's not a huge number. You're going to have some penalties. The refs tried to put a penalty on the Saints that was not on them. They almost rode with on a kickoff, and then it was like, wait, they don't even have a player by that number.
That was very odd. And it was like, they don't have a, what was it, 69, 59. There was nothing even close to it.
Well, it was like, guys, you can't just call it. Like, how do you get the penalty wrong on the wrong team and no one calls it out?
They're like, it's.
And if the Saints hadn't like argued it, I think they were just going to let it go. Like, the Saints were lined up ready to run a play, and then Kellen was like, guys, don't like, let's figure this out. So good on the coaching staff for making sure that got corrected, because like, it's a lot going on in an NFL game. You could just be like, whatever, we'll figure it out later. But like, no, that's a 20-yard difference in field position. That's a big swing. So yeah, couple others. I wanted to have Blake. Sorry, go ahead.
The block punt, that was the penalty. That was an inopportune penalty, but it's hard to be that mad at it.
You got to go for the block. You missed the block. You got the punter. Yeah. Like, I get it. Yeah, that was not a situation where you were within one score. You had to make something happen there. So I understand. And he was close.
Yeah, it's not like you saw him purposely like twisting the guy's foot or anything.
Right. It's not like he just ran through him with no chance to block it. He was going all out. And if he gets there, it's a huge play and he can hit him anyway. But anyway, a few more. We talked about Cam Jordan, Carl Granderson, Chris Rump. You made some impact plays. That's what you need out of that group. I wanted to have Blake Grupe in my stock up entirely, but that stupid kickoff, which was a really tough moment. Like, it doesn't go in the books as anything huge. That was one of your 4 penalties, but like, man, giving you're down 2 points at that stage and you give the Bills the ball at the 40, and we've already seen like the Saints defense plays well when they can force them to start backed up. And not only did you not do that, you give him the ball at the 40, and it's the second time he's done it. And it's like, at the end of the day, I need him to make his field goals, and whatever happens on kickoffs happens on kickoffs. It's just like, you were that close. You were that close to having just a clean day operation wise, and you just missed it. But still, those kicks were important in those moments. One of them was from 50 plus, and he nailed it. It's announced. It was windy, like there was wind.
Yeah, so, for me with Grupe, I don't have him stock up, stock down, but I do have him in the WTF category because that penalty was the issue. And I mean, it's not the first time either.
Well, it's weird because he didn't do it once last year. Wow. And it's happened twice in a month.
What the hell is going? Is he dealing with something?
I don't know. Like, if all he does is make his kicks, I'm okay with it. Like, that's what I need, is for the Saints to not have to. Like, when Blake Grupe runs out there, I want to believe it's going in, which I used to, and now I'm starting to wonder. But like, he needed a game like that where he made all his kicks and he didn't get asked about it, and it's like, which he probably is like, well, you're not asking me about it now, even though I made him. But hey, so I thought that was an important game for him. Like, those were 2 important kicks that he made. Kai Kroger had the best fun of his career. Ball just checked up right at the 3. And you can't expect that out of a guy every time, but you got to know it's in there. Right. And he should have had another one. I think Ike blew like, Ike needs to get behind it and bury it. And instead he was like waiting for it to check up again, but you can't trust the ball to check up perfectly every time. Get under it and catch it. He was there. So that was a little disappointing, but like, if one of every 2 kicks that you have a chance to pin inside the 5 gets pinned with inside the 5, you're a pretty good punter. So, that's something that Matt Hayball did not do once last year. So,
like you said, it was nice to know that it's something in his bag that it's there. He can, so it was impressive the way it was just like a perfect golf shot.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always cool when that happens like that, because you're just like, oh, it's going close, and then just
think.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Any others before we move on to the stock down?
Shout out to Carl Granderson. I guess he goes in with the category.
Yeah, we mentioned, we probably skate over that. Cam Jordan, Carl Granderson, those 2 sacks, like that. That was at a moment when the Bills had basically done everything they wanted without interference to that point in the game. And so you had 2 sacks in the span of 3 snaps. And I think that gave the Saints defense a little just confidence. And they really did just shut the Bills down the rest of the half. The Bills didn't score after those first 2 long drives. And I think you got to give them credit. That was the 50th player that Cam Jordan has sacked. 50th quarterback. It is player, because one of the quarterbacks that Cam Jordan sacked was a wide receiver from the Broncos. So,
so he had never gotten Josh Allen before.
Nope. 50 players. That's a lot.
There's another moral victory.
Yeah. And then Carl Granderson just keeps making plays. Brazil got in for a sack. Josh you're not going to be able to take him down all game. So, I think they did a pretty good job of that until they didn't. But again, it's like until Chase Young is out there, it's hard to be too critical of the defensive line. Yeah, that's all I have to say on that.
Yeah, you said Chase Young, and you just drove my sadness even further down into my soul.
I wish it was like a Goosebumps or not a Beetlejuice situation, but I think if I say his name 3 times, he actually disappears. It's the reverse Beetlejuice. Whoa. Anyway, all right. Who dat? Go Saints. That was stock up. Now let's talk about the bad stuff. Let's get negative. Negative. Who dat? Go Saints will be right back. And we are back rolling on Inside Black and Gold. We're kind of pre-gaming Kellen Moore's press conference, which will take place in about 45 minutes. And as we're talking about the Saints losing to the Bills 32-19. They did cover the spread for the first time this season, which, I'm sure somebody's happy about that. It's like it's an insult when they hand you a 60.5 point spread, but you could at least cover it for the people who have the confidence in you. That's like, well, that's not fair. Like they're better than that. Right. So
especially when we had one of the Odyssey betting experts come on, he's like, that's basically like 40 points in college football.
Right. Like that's a huge, you don't see spreads like that in an NFL and the NFL. Even like, and I think I said this in the preview episode, like you can make a legitimate argument that this was 1 versus 32,
Yeah.
That this was like the number 1 seed versus the number 9 seed, the lowest number 9 seed in the NCAA tournament, right? Like that's how big the gap was.
Bear was saying if the Saints happen to pull the upset, it's going to be the game of the year.
Yeah. And I mean, they gave themselves a chance, right? Like you had a chance to take a lead in the fourth quarter. It's what the same thing the Dolphins did to the Bills last week. I think the Bills are kind of on autopilot a little bit. They're just becoming the kingmaker of teams that are losing but want to feel good about themselves. So whatever. But it's going to be a problem for them if they continue to play down. And I have serious questions about like, is that really your run defense? Like, are you really that bad against the run? Because
that you're going to fly in the playoffs.
Well, it'll fly against some teams, but like you're not winning it. You're not beating the Eagles in the Super Bowl if it gets down to it. And you can't not every team is built to run the ball the way they need to really take advantage of that. The Eagles are. And the most likely Super Bowl matchup is Bills-Eagles. And I could tell you right now, if they don't get that sorted out, the Eagles are going to run them ragged. The Bills are not going to have the ball. The Bills are going to get just the ball pounded down their throat on every possession. And Josh Allen is not going to be able to do enough to overcome that. And it's like, we've seen that with the Saints, right? Like we know what it looks like when a defense undermines a truly elite offense and truly elite quarterback. So we'll see. But this is stock down about the Saints. And so I'll let you start again. What is your kind of biggest stock down thought from this game?
I could go with a player or like an overall category here, and I don't know which bothers me more. And I'm going to go with the overall category and just saying tackling in general was pretty pathetic this game. Even though you were able to get to Josh Allen, get him down a few times, but especially in the run game, I know I know the run game for Buffalo is good too. And James Cook's a good back. Josh Allen's tough to bring down, but you just felt like there were chances to get them with minimal gains, and you just let them get 3-4 extra yards.
James Cook is fascinating because he reminds me of Alvin Kamara so much because he's just a guy who's never running full speed, and that's by design. He always has something left in reserve just in case he needs that like quick burst. And it's like, that's how you know a running back is playing at like a really high level. And Le'Veon Bell's another example who always was like that. Like you ask Le'Veon Bell, he'd be like, I ran my full speed maybe like 10 times my whole career. Because you don't need to run full speed, but you do need to get to the lanes and use the blockers. And that's the true artistry of playing running back.
Yeah. And I know that the Bills O-line's definitely considered one of the tops in the league.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that makes me kind of rethink that, but I just thought there were plays too many times where the Saints could have gotten guys down, and it was almost like they were bouncing off of some people.
No, you're right, and I think I think you hit it correctly. And I have the run defense in my stock down, but I don't think that's necessarily fair because I think the run defense in moments was really good, right? Like that fourth down stop, like that's what you need your run defense to be. But I think you're right in that it was the tackling that really created, like you had James Cook going off for 120 yards, 121 yards. And how much of that was after contact? How much of that was after breaking tackles? And it wasn't just in the run game. Like Khalil Shakir's 43-yard touchdown. I mean, come on. That's a tackle. DeMario, you got to make that 10 out of 10 times. Like, this isn't DK Metcalf. It's Khalil Shakir. Like, I like Khalil Shakir, but he's not a guy who should be running through tackles. Heck, if that's Keon Coleman, I'll give you a pass. That's Khalil Shakir. Like, DeMario, you got to make that tackle. And I think he broke another tackle there, too. And there was just too many times. I thought Pete Werner had an awful game.
That was the guy that I would have targeted as my number one. And just because it's inexcusable with the interception, you're like, you got to be kidding me to force not only in that situation, but the fact that, you just felt it could have been a rallying point for a team, even if you get a last minute Josh Allen run, or say you do pull out the win, but to have some kind of calling card, and they're missing that.
Yeah, I agree. Like you need you paid Pete. Like Pete's a veteran player now. Like these are the guys you need to be making plays. And, just to move on to another point, like I think the veteran defensive players in general, Cam Jordan, Chris Rump, Carl Granderson, like pass rush excluded.
Yeah.
Like I need these guys to make plays. Like I think Justin Reed is a very important player. I think DeMario Davis is a very important player in both instances because they're not only very good, they're also like elite team leaders and they improve players around them. They're multipliers.
Right.
But where are the impact plays, right? Like one of the things, like Tyrann Mathieu, he'd miss a tackle. He had some issues, but he always seemed to come up with that clutch play, that key takeaway that, you go back to the Eagles game last year. What was one of the key reasons they had a chance to win that game is because they were trying to take advantage of him in the end zone. He read it and makes a big interception. And suddenly you're up 3-0 instead of being down 7-3 in a game you were always going to struggle to score in, right? It seemed like every game against the Falcons that they had a chance to win, it was because he was ticking off somebody in the red zone or the end zone. He had 10 interceptions in his 3 years with the Saints. I haven't seen Justin make a play yet. And there's more to it than that. Like he's an important communicator. He's playing the right way, I think. But I don't know. He had a chance to tackle Josh Allen on that touchdown run, and he didn't make that tackle. It's a hard task for a safety to tackle Josh Allen. But like, it seemed like every key play the Bills made was going through one of the players on defense that you expected to be kind of the rocks of your defense, right? And the plays the Saints make on defense are coming from the rookies and the young players, right? Like Chris Rump is making a great play, a guy you expected nothing out of, and Pete Werner is with it, a guy that you expect a lot out of. Jonas Sanker is making an interception, and then the veterans are letting you down. So
maybe it's easier for the young mind to digest Staley's scheme when these other guys have been programmed by DA's system. I don't know.
I think part of it is you're attacking the young guys and they're getting to, so you have opportunities to make plays.
Sure, that too, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I need the veterans to be more impactful. And yeah, I mean that's just my stock down. Is like one of the reasons I thought this defense could play well is because of those guys. I like the young guys. I like Danny Stutzman. I like Quincy Riley. I like Jonas Sanker. I like Kool-Aid, even though people are down on Kool-Aid right now. But like they can't be the only guys making plays. So that's my stock down is the vets.
Yeah, and I think I have to look at some of the gradings and all, but I don't think up front with Shough, he's had back-to-back difficult games, I believe.
Yeah, it's tough to get. It's always hard to make a call on how the nose tackle played without looking at the film, because it's like if they're double teaming the nose tackle, then he's winning, right? And I just don't know how often that was happening versus how often he's like, because that's the thing with the nose tackle. If they're single teaming you, then it's on you because you need to win that one-on-one matchup. So I don't know. It's a lot of it depends. It's kind of like, hey, you look at the quarterback and he's not throwing downfield. Well, what if the safeties are just sitting over the top the entire game and daring you to run the ball? So you ran the ball. Okay. Can you still take advantage of it? Maybe, but like you can only play the way that is created for you to play. So, but I would like to see, you never like to see 120 yards rushing ever. So
no, Cook. I mean, he's been doing it all year too. So I like I said, that Buffalo
really
line I know gets a ton of credit.
He's real good. The guy we have to talk about is Chris Olave, and we probably should have talked about it earlier, but just so disappointing. And it's like, I really like Chris Olave. I really like Chris Olave's game. It's just kind of baffling how inconsistent he can be in key moments. There was at least 2 drives in the first half that, there's a 3rd and 7 play that he's just juggling. Like we can say Spencer has been inaccurate. He wasn't inaccurate on that throw.
Right.
It was a perfect throw.
That's why I said that that synchronicity's off.
I don't know. It's a lack of concentration there. The throw in the 3rd quarter was left behind him. I still need him to make those catches. Like you want to be the star. You want to be a wide receiver 1. You got to pick up your quarterback. You got to. You can't let your quarterback down that frequently. Like if this is Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, and CeeDee is the guy that's the problem, and you're like, okay, but we at least we have Dak who's going to make up for that. You're asking a young player who's trying to operate in a hostile environment to not only beat the defense, but also make up for his star wide receivers' foibles. And you can't expect that out of him. So he's got to be better. The interception was funny because this is what Spencer had to say about it. I identify with this answer. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was what it was. I mean, you guys saw it. It was a tough play. Chris isn't a quarterback, and I don't put the blame on him.
Is that the kind of play to where, I'm not trying to drum up anything here, but I'm just curious, just for you from like a competitive standpoint, is that the kind of play to where it's like you'd almost rather the ball in your hands as a quarterback in that moment?
Yeah, I trust Kellen to call the right play. Had the right look, and the play looked great for the last 2 weeks we've repped it, and, I was ready to catch it in the end zone, but, I trust what Kellen's calling, and the play was set up for success.
How much do you think your legs also?
Yeah, and so the thing is, like, you could be critical of the throw.
Yeah,
you're not calling that play. Like the whole purpose of that play is like no one's going to be paying attention to the quarterback. Like the quarterback's going to be able to sneak out of the backfield, and it's funny because it's not a scouted look. The Saints have never run that play. Saints have never run that play. Now, I don't know if the Eagles have run that play with Kellen last year. I couldn't tell you. But there is no single second of tape of the Saints offense running that play. But it's such a famous play that Cole Bishop was able to identify it just on reputation alone, which is fascinating to me.
It was odd to me. I thought about that, Jeff. I was like, that's not even Kellen's regime in Philadelphia. I was curious why he was whipping the Philly special out.
Well, it's just a play. It's just become like they ran it, and it's a copycat league. You hear that all the time. It's a copycat league. There's a play that works, and then people start running it. But like that could not have possibly been a play that the Bills looked at over the course of the week and were like, be on alert for it. Like they couldn't have, unless they were in the Saints practices, which we don't need to get into that Robert Saleh, Liam Cohen situation, which Liam Cohen is such a tool. He's trying to be so tough. He's such a goober. Like Robert Saleh would tear your head off, you goofy man. Learn how to say your own team's catchphrase before keep my going all Will Smith at the Oscars. Like, what the hell? Weirdo. Anyway, him and Ben Johnson, mean mugging reporters, and these guys are having a hard time. Kellen's over here just being like, and these guys are trying to fight. Anyway, that was just a fascinating play because you would have thought by looking at it that the Bills were ready for it, but it's like they couldn't have been. That was I guarantee you, Cole Bishop in this week's meetings is going to get pounded on the back so many times he's going to have a bruise, because that was, you look at the all 22 of that play, there's 10 guys on defense that have no idea what's going on, and then Cole Bishop, who the reason he's able to make that play is because he's accounting for Olave. Like his job is to track Chris Olave, but in most cases he's going to just follow Chris because he thinks it's a reverse. So he's going to try to track Chris. But the second Chris, and maybe he didn't sell it enough,
right?
But the second Chris takes that ball and he kind of loads to throw, and Cole instantly
turbo button, right?
He hit the turbo, and he is on a beeline straight for Spencer Rattler. He knew what the Saints were doing, and again, like I'm talking too much about this, but I just think it's it's like one of those things, if you're a football nerd, like you appreciate, because like it's not a scouted play, it's a famous play. So he knew it because he watched it happen in the Super Bowl, and he was like, they're not getting me. Anyway, and then it was a great play just to intercept it. Like if he doesn't make the interception, they're still kicking a field goal.
I wonder what that moment was for him where he realized he's like, Olave is throwing, and just knew to hightail it because it was just that beeline.
Individual just awareness and ability to make a play in a key moment is so important in winning NFL games. And a lot of times we just kind of look past it because it's like, it was always going to happen. It's like, no, that happened because Cole Bishop made an incredible play. And yeah, Olave could have thrown a better ball, but like Spencer said, he's not a quarterback. It's not his job to look and be like, there's a DB. It's like they got the look they wanted. That play should work. And if not for Cole Bishop making an incredible play, it does. And then but what made it worse was that at that point in the game, Chris Olave had one more interception thrown than ball caught. He had 0 catches and an interception. Now, and then he came back in the second half and immediately has a drop early in the second half.
Did you have to put that in your fantasy stats?
Right.
By the way, folks, if you have Chris Olave and he's at negative for
2.
interception.
Yeah, man. But I do give him credit. He came back. He made some really nice, he made physical catches. He didn't just go into the tank. That touchdown was important. It kept the Saints alive. But you got to be consistent. You can't. It reminds me, if you remember that stretch in Derek Carr's first season, this would have been 2022. There was a stretch where, no, maybe 23. It was 23. You remember, like they went out to Indy and had a ball like bounce off his face. And like there was like a 3-game stretch. It was after that stretch where he was getting screamed at by Derek and that whole thing. But like he was really in a rough way at that point. And he came back strong and he finished out the season well. But like he's prone to prolonged stretches of play like this. And That's just not what wide receiver ones are.
I was going to say, if you want to get paid wide receiver one money, you need to be.
Yeah.
That's been the biggest, I think, problem with folks too. It's like, are the Saints going to pay him? Because right now he's not shown like a guy that's deserving of that big money contract.
No. And, it's frustrating because, like, I just want to see Rashid catch a deep ball one time.
I'm with you there too.
I'd like to see them just throw it to him one time. Like, I get whatever coverage they're playing. The goal should be, if I'm not throwing the ball deep to Shaheed at least once a game against, I don't care what the look is. That's on me. It's on me. And I just don't buy that there's not opportunities to at least test the defense over the top. And if I'm Shaheed, I'm frustrated. I am frustrated.
Yeah, and I mean, it was really puzzling too. I thought that Juwan would have a bigger role in this game, and that didn't turn out to be the case.
Juwan got hurt early in that game, and it really impacted him. Like
ankle.
He caught that ball and went down really awkward. I expect him to be on the injury report, and they like taped it up. He went back in there, but you could just see on his face. Like there's times where this on the sideline, you see a guy come out of the tent and they test it out, and like he wasn't smiling. They're like, "I'm good." He was just like, "Okay."
Right.
Like I guarantee you the rest of that game, like he probably had some really strong painkillers at halftime, and he just probably was a step slower. And he did make a couple catches, but you could tell like they weren't running action for him.
Yeah.
And I think it was in part because he was a little slow because of that injury. And he gutted it out. You got to give him credit for that. But that's always frustrating when you see that happen early in a game and it's going to impact the rest of the game. Like he's going to play, he's going to be out there, but he's playing hurt. So that's, we'll see. I'm hopeful that it's not anything that lingers, but that's why this, the Wednesday injury report after games is always fascinating to see just what got kind of, brushed aside during the game that is actually an issue and you find out about it. But yeah. I don't know. I think that's it for my stock down. You got any more?
Like I said, I was kind of down on Groupie just for the penalty and the penalty on the bad kick, just because it was another snowball effect. It led to that short field for Buffalo, and you knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, I kind of grade this as kind of so I give the special teams an F for Seattle, right? Like that was about as bad of a grade as you could give one special teams unit. They played a lot better in terms of just overall success, covering kicks, covering punts. But they still made a few too many mistakes for my liking. And Phil needs to get his shit in order. Like, that's all I'm going to say. Because he's not Doug Nussmeier. He's not a guy who's been linked to Kellen for 3 different coaching stops, or he's a holdover from Dennis Allen's regime, who was a holdover from Sean Payton's regime. He's here because he got good recommendations, and Kellen just didn't have a guy that he really was confident in, and it was like, we'll go with Phil. Now that goes so far as things go well. He has probably the least job security of any coach in that building. And he knows that. He knows that. So, you got to get this stuff sorted out. We only had 4 penalties, but hey, 3 of them were on special teams. And one of them cost us a chance to actually have a comeback attempt late in the game. So, and then one is on this freaking kicker. Just can't get it right. Anyway.
That's certain things do go well for the team, and then they just take the old a step forward, 2 step back BS.
Yeah. And again, they were better. It was weird. I talked to Bayless about this after the game, and I was like, what? So in Seattle, in week 3, every kickoff went to Kendrick. Every single one. And it was like, did they see something they really liked in terms of how Kendrick returns kicks, and they just wanted to attack it? This week, every kickoff went to Bayless. And I asked him, and I was like, why do you think people have been avoiding you? And he's like, because they know what I can do. And I'm like, yeah, but that's true. But then why do you think the Bills kicked you today? And he was just like, I don't know, man. But I thought he returned. He's not. This is a stock down segment, but actually, like Bayless, like I understand why guys aren't kicking to him because he felt like a couple times he was just one, 2 steps away from breaking it.
No, it's nice to see the name. And I was like, oh yeah, he's on the team, right?
That speed is legit. Now I keep waiting for them to do something with him on offense, and it hasn't happened yet.
No.
But I think Kellen's trying to get into his bag. He's trying to get creative, and like I can't get mad at him. I don't love the 2-point conversion call for a couple reasons. One being you ran QB power with Spencer Rattler, and that can't be your best play at the goal line. 2, they showed it and then ran it anyway, and it's like I don't like that. Like, change the play. Because once you show it, it's pretty. You can tell what you're like. Yes, there's a few things you can do out of that look, but it's pretty clear you're trying to sell something to that side once you split out. And I don't know. I don't think it's that hard to identify. Like, they're going to do something weird inside of those tight ends. And I don't know. Like once they got to look at your formation and how you were running it, to just go back and do the exact same thing again, it just feels like I don't know. Like you should have a counter.
I think that's one of the things too for maybe folks coming in. We heard so much about the offensive genius that Kellen Moore was, and I don't know if we've seen anything that innovative right now.
I mean, you can't.
I know it's still very early in what they're trying to do, but it's still there's not enough those splash wow moments.
You can't coach execute. I mean, the coach can't go out there and run the play right.
Right. I get that.
Like I don't like. I think I appreciate the tempo. I appreciate how they operate. He's trying to get creative, and I just think your ceiling's real low right now. And I think that the play calling, like I would like to see him I would like to see him lean on the run game more.
Right. No, but then there's some of the times where we praise. I think the most for Spencer is the escapability, that mobility, the extendability of a play. But the fact is the execution on a throw is like, well, shoot, I want to see what Tyler Shough can do at this point because I've seen Spencer not being able to make that it throw that they needed.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right. I think that's it for me. Anything else quick before we hit a quick mailbag and then yell at Kellen for a couple minutes?
Negative to once again on instant replay. Boo to them.
The refs had a rough game. They did. They screwed up a few things. But all right. Who dat? Go Saints. Thanks everyone for listening. 0-4, but I have a feeling next week it's our time, baby. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Little Jordan Humphrey ain't got enough. He's gonna be here. We're gonna have it's gonna be the Little Jordan Humphrey game. When Bo Collins, who I am slightly concerned that Bo Collins, BAUX, is gonna develop superpowers when he arrives in Louisiana.
I just worry about seeing Jackson Dart running down the field.
Yeah, Jackson Dart, baby. Anyway, all right. Who dat? Go Saints. If you're here, we're gonna have kind of a secret mailbag after this, but it's gonna be a short one, so keep that in mind. Either way, who dat? Thanks everyone for listening. As always, please subscribe. Otherwise, thanks. This dismount has been terrible. Who dat? Go Saints. Thanks everyone for listening. As always, we'll be back at it again. Normal schedule this week. Normal schedule for the rest of the year because we got all Sunday starts back at home for the next 2 weeks. Thanks, everyone. Peace.
Keep surviving, Saints fans.
All right. You want to hit us with a quick intro, Steve, for this secret mailbag?
Gotcha.
It's not really secret, but since I told you that.
Top secret. Welcome on into Inside Black and Gold. We are taking your questions, a mailbag edition where we get to some of your black and gold questions about this team now. 0-4 on the season, looking slightly better, but still the same results. And that's all we really care about is the wins and the losses in this one. We're going to check in, Jeff, like who we got on the line here that wants to actually get more pain and punishment about this Saints squad.
Yeah, I think what I don't want to be down on Rattler. I don't, because I really like Spencer Rattler. I like his mentality. I like his approach. I came in saying, like, I think he's a backup. I think he has a backup ceiling. And what he's proved through the first 4 weeks of this season is like he can be a viable backup in the NFL. And I think we had one comment in here that Dorian Gray, which are you, the real Dorian Gray? I hope not. It says definition of a backup QB. He won't lose the game, but he doesn't win the game either. And like, I do think there's like a lot of qualities that Spencer has shown that, like, if I'm an NFL team, I'm interested in that. Is he a starter? No, I don't think so.
Right.
Like a long-term starter. Like I don't know. Like, I need those moments. I need him to deliver in those moments. And yes, he's still developing and he's learning, and I don't even care about the record. The 0-10 is whatever. Like, the 0-10 doesn't bother me as much. It's a talking point that everyone wants to throw out. And like, yes, it's a negative, but it's not the 0-10 that bothers me. It's the failure to come through in big moments. And like, because if you were coming through and driving to take the lead against Buffalo in the fourth quarter, and then the Buffalo goes down and wins the game anyway, that's still a loss, but it's a loss that you gave your team, you did enough for your team to win, and someone else let you down. In multiple instances this year, it's like, there's chances, and you're just not going to get done. And here's the thing, like, if you're a guy who's coming in at halftime, your starter goes out hurt, and like you bring in Spencer Rattler and he plays the way he has and gives you a chance. Like, for example, if you're up in Green Bay in 2020 and Derek Carr goes out at halftime and Spencer Rattler comes in and plays the way he did in Buffalo, you probably win, right? And like, no one wants to be a backup until you're 10 years in and you have like no brain injuries and you're good. And you've made all the Chase Daniel career happen. Like, I think that he can be that. I don't know. Like, he's going to get at least one more opportunity, in my opinion. And if he can start to show those tendencies, those traits, those game-winning moments that he delivers in, like Jackson Dart did in week 1, even though he didn't have a great game, but he made plays in the moments, in the winning moments. We'll see. But that's kind of where I am. And I know we talked a lot about it already, but like, it's tough. It's a tough situation.
Yeah, I don't. We always figured this season, though, too, we were going to see both quarterbacks. That wasn't a question at all. And I think now you're at the point where you're wondering where that clock is ticking for. I don't think we'll get it like Spencer pulled from a game unless it's like a 4 or 5 turnover performance kind of thing, or an injury, but. You wonder if after the Giants, if you suffer a rough loss at home to a team that's got a rookie under center, it's like, all right, we need some kind of spark ourselves. Do you look to your rookie?
Yeah, and I think like there was a scenario where Spencer comes into this season and plays at such a level that you don't ever see Tyler, right? And not playing at that level is not an indictment of like he can't possibly go out there and play well, but it is like, I think that scenario, barring some really impressive performances this week and beyond, is not what's going to happen. Like, you're like, based on what we have seen through 4 weeks, you're going to see Tyler at some point this season, because this is not a playoff team. And Spencer, while playing better than I anticipated, is still not doing the things that I need to be like, he's the guy. Right? Because there's going to be value in finding out one way. And I'm not saying Tyler Shough is the guy. I
got to know.
You're going to have to find out. And that's where I am. And like, I think it's really easy. And again, like, I hate the whole, like, either he's great or he's trash. It's like, there is nuance and there's conversations that can be had about like where he is and where he can get better and what his actual career trajectory and ceiling can be. But we always get caught up in like, either he's a star or he's not worth talking about. And I don't think that's true. I think he's played somewhere well in the middle of that. And there's something to be said for that. But all right, let's Lehman Park, who always has nice things to say, says Steve has an award-winning voice, but looks like Belushi in Animal House.
Toga,
which is better than me because I sound like someone who shouldn't be on radio. But hey, I got stuff to say. So
I had a texter once, I guess, trying to insult me, saying Steve's like the macho man savage of radio, and I was like, I kind of like that. Yes. I'll take that. Right.
I'm like the Ray Romano of radio.
Well, Raymond was a sports writer.
Ray Barone was a sports writer.
Yeah.
Ray Romano is a comedian.
His character, right? His character was.
My mom loved that show. My mom loved Everybody Loves Raymond, so I know exactly. Like I could quote that show to you.
What's funny is more of I hear you and Mike Triplett, and sometimes I do a double take.
Yeah, but Mike Triplett's also a guy who shouldn't be on the radio. Oh man, Tyler Gary says, "Hey guys, I sure hope Spencer can survive the losses." Yeah, I mean, like I'm not saying for sure that you're going to be like, get him out of there, but like he needs to go and he needs to put a stamp on something, right? And that something can be a win over the Giants, and then I think that extends your runway. But you get like 0-5 with like and he probably gets to the Patriots either way. And if he does, then you get the road trip and you come back. And then it's like, I still think week 12 is where you are because like week 12, by the time you get to week 12, you can definitively say like, okay, is the playoffs out of the picture entirely? I think it will be. I think you're going to be like 3-9 or I guess you have 11 games. So 3-8 would be a target because you do have matchups. Bobby was talking about this. He's 100% right. Like you play the Titans. You play, do you play the Dolphins?
Yep. At Miami, you get to go to Miami, baby.
Right. So you play the Titans, you play the Dolphins, you play the Giants, you play the Patriots. Like you're through. One of the reasons this schedule was daunting is because the first month of the season was really tough, but you're through that. So it's like, and I don't think it would be fair to pull the rug out from Spencer now as you get into this stretch of actual games that you feel like you have a good chance in.
You hope, at least I did, that you'd have one by now. Just one.
Yeah, I agree with that. Animator 73 says, why doesn't anyone go after Loomis for this debacle? He is the blame for all of this with all these crappy draft classes, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. Don't you get bored complaining about a guy who has nothing to do with the games that we're watching? Like the GM is what you talk about in the offseason. The GM has nothing to do with the game plan or the execution on the field. So I don't know.
I think the anger is because they see the product. You see players that Buffalo has, and it's like we don't have as many horses as they do.
I guess that's true, but like I don't know. Like I watched Buffalo, and it was like very much that's a good team with an elite quarterback. But
right, there you go. I think that's the biggest thing is like you mentioned, they have that guy.
They have a good offensive line. That defense is not that good. And the weapons are Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman and James Cook. And then you have the tight ends. Like it's a good roster, but it's not like if you took the quarterbacks out of the equation and put the Saints roster next to the Bills roster, it's not that far apart. And I could say that about a lot of teams in the NFL. Now, the Seahawks are a team that I look at and be like, that's a really good roster, but they don't have Josh Allen. Right? But like that's the most talented team the Saints went against this year to this point is the Seahawks.
I mean, but you know that Sam freaking Darnold had a perfect QB rating forever against us.
Well, sure. And that's why, like, when Sam Darnold is playing really good, that's a really tough team to beat. And, you know, they made the Saints look like they didn't deserve to be in the NFL in that game. Whereas, like, if you put Josh Allen on the Seahawks, I think that's a Super Bowl runaway. Anyway, I just think it's really easy to be like, get mad at the GM. Like, I don't know. Like, we were seeing a good draft class. Like, they missed some drafts, obviously. They missed some picks. But I don't know. I get bored with that conversation. Like, what's the conversation about? The conversation in the season is about the coaching staff and the players. Like, people just want to be boring, I guess. I don't know.
I think it's from the lack of talent out there, and it's because of some poor drafting.
Oh, I agree with that, but that's what I talk about around the draft. Like, I don't see the benefit of sitting here on a podcast about the Week 4 game and being like, I just don't see how that benefits anybody. Like, that's, if you want to listen to, ESPN in Baton Rouge, they'll do that for you.
Plus, it's not going to do any good either because Mickey's not going anywhere.
I think it's getting close. I think it's getting closer than people realize. But again, like, that's not a conversation worth having right now. He's not going to get fired in the season. So that's after the season. You look at it and you say, well, where are we now? So that's why, like, I'm not blaming Mickey for the roster and the talent level, but this is a post-game Week 4 podcast that really has nothing to do with the GM.
And I still think no matter what, he's not getting fired.
You're probably right. Okay, I want to get to a non-Rattler question.
Spence.
Lehman Park says,
25-year-old Spence.
Who called that trick play on the goal line? Moore thought he was Peyton for a second. Yeah, we talked about that in the full episode. I mean, I think, it's funny. Like, I saw someone saying like, Torricelli Simpkins played better than Caesar, and I don't think he did. I think one of the reasons you're trying to run a trick play at the goal line in that situation is because you are a little skeptical of your run game. Torricelli played well, but that's a tough situation to ask a UDFA. I think you're trying to just steal one because you just don't know what you're going to get in the trenches there. So, yeah.
Because it didn't work, you hate the trick play. I mean, it's tough to knock any kind of let's do something a little off schedule here and be different. The result is the reason we're ticked off. If not, it would have been like a genius play.
Right. If it's successful, we're talking about it all week. Like, wow, what a call. And instead, Cole Bishop makes this spectacular play. Again, it's a spectacular play by Cole Bishop.
So we've seen a spectacular play there and a spectacular get play from Arizona to knock the ball out Juwan.
Yeah.
Cool,
I mean, the defense gets
great.
paid too, guys. But no, and it's funny because it's like, yeah, it didn't work, so it's a bonehead call. But that's right. The reality of the NFL. Either it works and you're a genius, or it doesn't and you're a goddamn idiot. And that's just the reality. Like, you got to live with that. Like, that's why if you're a head coach, you can't listen to the noise more than is absolutely necessary, because otherwise you'll go crazy.
Whatever it is, it's like the momentum, the aura around the team, whatever it is, nothing seems to be going their way at the moment. I'm sorry. Even from calls on the field to catches that should have been made, or whatever it is, you just get into some kind of rut where nothing's for you. It's all against you.
Larry Connor says, Moore has mismanaged the 2-minute drill twice already before halftime. Hopefully he learns to try and score with the least amount of time left in the 2 minutes. I disagree with, I don't know what you're referring to. The first one, if it's week 1 or week, maybe you're talking about the Seahawks with the 2-minute drill, but at that point, it's like, you're just trying to get points at it's the time left on the clock wasn't the issue. And against the Seahawks, you were down 28-3. I don't think they mismanaged the time here in the first half. I think they, I think the Bills got it back with like 36 seconds left, and they were calling timeouts to try to keep time on the clock. So I don't know. I think he managed the clock well. And if that's even just an incompletion, you're kicking a field goal. It's 14-13. The Bills have like 30 seconds to try to get into field goal range. So I don't know. I don't agree with that criticism. Let's get to one more question here. And so Hakeem Batiste says Sanker's definitely a building block. Tyler Gary says I'm all in on Sanker. Yeah, and here's Hakeem. Says the problem is everyone in the league is playing too high safety and no deep shots are available. Yes, but there's more than just going over the top, right? Like, you're playing too high. There's room in the middle of the field. Like, not a lot of these 3-4 defenses have a linebacker who's up at the line and sinking. Like, You're telling me you can't get a crosser, you can't get the ball to someone on the run, and you like we saw what Jawan Jennings did to the Saints in week 3, right? Like they're playing a too high shell look, but you split it with a fast guy, and he's able to outrun these guys up the middle of the field. You can't get to that once. Like there's got to be, and that I put that on the play calling. I put that on Spencer. You got to be more aggressive. You got to be.
I wonder if Spencer's afraid to let it rip.
I don't know if afraid is the word. I think he's being coached to be conservative. And he's been successful in that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Borderly says, so are we still on track to see Shough after the bye? Is that when they make the switch? Again, like we said in the main episode, I think that's the ideal scenario, assuming the trend of this season continues to be the trend and you don't reel off 3, 4, 5 wins in a row here. Which I'm just saying that I don't think that's going to happen. If it did, then that changes. But I don't think winning 2 of your next 6 games, just for an example, would change that. Right? If you're 2-8,
you get to a point where you know what Spencer is, you know he's not your future, and you want to get to the guy that you handpicked to be your guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
just
it.
The only logical scenario. And it's not about Rattler. It's not about, he's not playing well enough. It's about the investment and, because here's the thing. You are well in the situation. Like, you're the number 1 pick in the draft right now. And
great. All the quarterbacks that we were high on are not so high anymore.
Yeah. But at the same time, like, you got to know coming out of this season whether you think Tyler Shough is actually a starting quarterback or if you have to be in the quarterback business. Because and
I think they'll be in quarterback business, but not like we have to take one first round. Right.
Right. But the only way you can say that definitively is by at least getting an idea of what he looks like on the field.
Right. Go out there.
And if you're in playoff contention and you're actually pushing for something and you're like, nah, we're going to try to get this done, that's one thing. And doing right by your guy, that's one thing. But just being blindly loyal to a young player that is doing everything the right way, that only goes so far. Because that is the truth with Spencer. He's doing everything the right way. He's doing what he's coached to do. Just not the ceiling.
No, like last year, Bo Nix sold himself to Sean like, I got my guy. And I'm not saying Denver's not going after a QB ever again, but you know what I'm like.
Never
he was
again.
Confident enough that he had his trigger man.
Bo Nix will be the last Denver Broncos quarterback
ever.
All right. That's it. We got to go hang out with Kellen Moore. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thanks, everyone, for sticking around through an 0-4 start. I think there's going to be a win coming this week. I think we're going to be able to get excited because if I know anything, is that the Giants are better than the Saints at losing games. I believe that with my soul and decades of firsthand experience.
I see a defensive front that scares me, although I haven't seen much of their games this year, so I don't know how they've been doing.
They've been doing well. The defense is good, but that's it. But all right, who dat? Go Saints. BZL.
Who dat?